Here we go. Welcome to Double Dribble Bucks. I am Seth. With me, as always, is my good friend Brett. How you doing tonight, Brett?
What's the deal with YouTube?
It's our third attempt at starting this podcast, and it's not streaming live.
No, but that's okay. We're back to the basics, and we'll find a way to go live in the future. But I'm happy that we're back and doing the pod again. I feel like we had a nice long break, and now we're ready to get back into it.
Yeah. Let's get going. Every other week now, we're gonna do this. Bucks are playing basketball, and we gotta talk about it. But the first thing we have to talk about is how Giannis is getting beaten up by everybody, and no one's doing a thing about it. What's going on with the refs?
I would love to know. I think it's. I feel like there's like a rule change that I missed, and I feel like I'm not the only one that missed it. I think that all of the NBA players missed the same rule, and it was like a refs only meeting or something like that because Giannis is just getting absolutely attacked, and they are not calling anything. And listening to a local broadcast where Marcus Johnson was saying that the refs said Giannis is a big enough dude that he should be able to handle it is not an okay argument in my mind. It's like, yeah, I don't want these ticky-tack fouls, but sometimes, like, when I think back to the Sacramento game where Russell Westbrook essentially had Giannis in a headlock and they're, like, dragging him off the court, and they're like, clean, no foul at all. It's like, what are you looking at? Like, come on. Like, any other situation of any other NBA game I've ever seen, there would have been something going on. And they're like, no, totally fine. I don't get it. And the biggest thing is, like, the Cavs game, which is, like, the worst game because we lost Giannis to injury because of it. But you have somebody guarding Giannis doing a child's airplane move and pushing him with his head down like some just, like, I don't know, like you'd see like a goat on like the farm trying to push somebody around, and they're like, yeah, that's on Giannis. And Giannis is just defeated. He's like, I don't even know how you want me to argue the stupidest call that's ever happened. And they're just like, yeah, no, we're good. We totally understand. Like, you were dribbling the ball, you were trying to get to the basket. This guy had the most non-basketball move that anyone's ever seen, and yeah, that makes sense to us. Like, this is how we're gonna do the NBA this year. Let's just get crazy.
Yeah, he was like getting low, I guess, trying to get some leverage. But you said the airplane because his like arms were out.
Yeah,
this is like the movie Weapons, if you've seen that. And then just kind of put his neck like into him, kind of like a Draymond Green it's a Draymond Green type of a defensive move that he did, and I don't know. All of a sudden, foul on Giannis. Nothing really happened other than the guy kind of did that weird thing. It is weird. So I saw on Twitter someone said, I don't think there's a conspiracy to try to get Giannis out of Milwaukee, but if there were one, this is what it would look like.
That's true.
It's like,
that's true.
Okay, there's some truth to that. It is weird, and it is even beyond Giannis. I think obviously it's mostly Giannis just getting beaten up and no calls, but AJ Green's getting a lot of kind of weird ticky-tack kind of nothing calls. He was thrown around like a rag doll, and it was a foul on him. I think maybe it was Cleveland is the other day. So just kind of weird. Other teams probably could say the same thing. Everyone's kind of a homer, and the refs, it's a tough job. They're going to make mistakes, multiple mistakes every game, I would say. But, like we're complaining about, some of these are just kind of out of nowhere. Like, how can you possibly make that decision? So, yeah, it's upsetting. I guess we'll kind of keep an eye, see if it continues once Giannis gets back. But, yeah, it's disheartening a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on AJ Green. AJ Green is he's the new Pat Connaughton, and we've kind of talked about it. Not just because he's like the scrappy white guy, but, he is the scrappy white guy. I mean, there's a huge part of it. I mean, he is a great shooter. We know that. His defense, I think people that have been watching him are like, all right, AJ Green is playing better defense. The problem is AJ Green is getting in foul trouble every game. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, is he really playing bad defense, or are they just getting some weird ref calls? Because we've talked about this before. Everybody's always going to try to go at AJ Green. They just feel like he's got to suck at defense or whatever. Or maybe they just know something else on tape, but he's getting called for these fouls all the time. And on the flip side, Giannis, who is barreling his body down to the hoop and just getting absolutely mauled, and they're just like, no, nothing, we're good. I don't understand it at all. It's something that I do hope changes. I feel like it's one of those things that you probably go through every NBA season, where the beginning of the season's like, what are you doing? Some weird shit's happening, and then it kind of settles itself out throughout the year. So I'm hoping that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we're only a couple weeks into the season, but maybe that's what's going on.
A little bit might be style of play, and so a couple things for one, I saw OKC had a clip of their win, and I think maybe they had like 9 steals or something like that. So, and they were kind of showcasing their defense in this tweet that the team put out, and they showed all these clips. So I think it was like they had 9 steals, and they were showing all the steals, and like more than half of the steals were obvious fouls. It's just like OKC is just fouling a lot, but I think style of play, they foul a lot all the time, and it's like the ref feels like, well, I can't just always call a foul. And Doc even said that the ref told him, like, we can't. I forget what it was exactly, but Doc was like, hey, oh yeah, Doc said he's fouled every time, and the ref was like, we can't call a foul every time or something like that.
Yeah.
And Doc's like, yeah, like you can if it's a foul,
Yeah, why can't you?
So I think going back to AJ Green, he's not super physical. He's actually really good about trying not to foul. And so then when he does, or even when he kind of gets his hand caught in the cookie drawer kind of thing, it's like every time it's a foul. While these OKC guys are just, their hands are all over you all game. And so they get away with a lot more. So I definitely think that's at least a part of it.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say is you kind of touched on this. Have you been noticing it feels like there's a lot more steals this season? I don't know if it's like different effort or something going on, but it's like, the NBA you grew up with, like most of the steals were like intercepted passes where they could kind of like, tap it up the court a little bit and something like this. But now you got guys like essentially picking the pocket, like somebody like, you're not paying attention, I'm just going to pop this ball out or something like that. I love it, to be honest, but it's interesting that, I see all these steals happening more and more with no fouls. And then you have Giannis doing the thing that he's been doing for 10 years, and all of a sudden it's like, those aren't fouls anymore. I don't want Giannis to be the guy that's only playing for fouls. I think that's the knock on Shea, SGA, I think it is.
Definitely a complaint.
And I don't think Giannis is that guy, but it is a part of his game. I mean, he is going to go to the line 10 times a game because it's the only thing you can do to stop him. He's not Shaq because he's faster and more agile than Shaq ever was. But he's also like kind of as big as Shaq was. So it's like, it's a crazy, I mean, he is truly the freak and they don't know how to deal with it. So at some point you're going to get tired. You're going to start slapping the shit out of his arm and trying to do something. And if you're not going to call it, I really kind of a loss for how you're supposed to play basketball.
Yeah. We could probably complain for a lot longer, but we'll jump into some mailbag. We got to respect our listeners here. We got a couple of questions. So Bob had a question. I'm not sure if it was Bob or like AI Bob. There's an M dash, in the question. So that's always a little,
definitely AI then.
But Bob AI asked, with the team moving on from Damian Lillard and adding Miles Turner, how do you see the roster identity shifting this season? Especially M dash, especially in terms of spacing, defense, and how Giannis's role might evolve. So, we're a month into the season almost, and we're only on our second pod here. So I think he sent this soon after our first pod, right? Maybe as the season started. So we've seen a little bit. Maybe it's a little cheating to answer this question, but do you have an immediate answer for that?
I have a lot of things to say about this right now,
okay,
to be honest. So it's clearly AI. I'm just going to call Bob out right now. 100% AI. We know you did it. You probably just like kind of clumsily wrote something and had AI like make it better for you, and this is where we're at. The other thing is, I kind of feel like we touched on this, but to not spend the entire podcast making fun of Bob, there is a huge identity change. Damian Lillard is a great player. We all know that. We are super excited for the way that he was going to join this team. He was never a fit. And it's easy to say that looking back. It was something that we were optimistic about at the time. It seemed like it was going to be the great call. it wasn't the right play because you have Damian Lillard, who was out in Portland. Let's be honest, nobody watched Portland games because they come on at midnight and then they go till 3 a.m. and nobody cares because they're not that great. So nobody knows anything about Damian Lillard except the fact that he had some great stats. But he was carrying those teams forever. It was the Damian Lillard team, and everything else was second. So you come to Milwaukee, and there is zero doubt that this is Giannis's team. Say anything you want, but we're bringing his brother in to make sure that he's happy. I mean, nothing against Thanasis. He is the ultimate hype man, coach, great addition to the bench. I mean, I think that it gets the team fired up, but it was never working because Dame kind of thought he had to do things that he shouldn't have been doing. Giannis didn't know how it fit. We've talked about this last season where it was Dame and Brooks seemed to have a good connection with the pick and roll, but it never really seemed to work with Giannis. This is a team, and it always sounds like it's a negative, but it's not, of role players, but in the best possible sense. Miles Turner can be an all-star. I don't think Miles Turner can be an MVP. That's a big difference, right? All-star is still a tremendous accomplishment in the NBA, right? You could have AJ Green, Ryan Rollins, Gary Trent Jr. All these guys have the potential to be all-stars. They're not going to be the MVP, and I think that's the biggest difference. Dame still thinks he was going for MVPs. Maybe he still's got one left in him, but this is a team that's Giannis, and you need guys that are like, look, every single chance we can, I'm going to Giannis. And you just need to be open when he needs to dish it out to you. And when you have that opportunity, you have to nail the shot. I'm going to give a quick shout out to the Rebenzers because I kind of got in this little argument with Kelly when we went to the game recently. She's like, I don't know. In the last seconds, do you really want to give the ball to Giannis to make that last shot? And I go, yes. Every time. And she's like, oh, come on. There's better shooters. I go, I'm not paying a guy $50 million to not be the guy that I'm putting the ball in his hands at the last minute here. I will live and die on everything Giannis does. He's an amazing player, and we are so lucky as Bucks fans to be witnessing this. It's like he could do whatever he wants, and I think we finally have a team that's they understand that. You guys can all be amazing players, but Giannis is first. Whatever happens through him, that's the way this team's going to go.
And yeah, Giannis did show some of that last-second shot making against Indiana, game winner.
That's right.
Fadeaway mid-range. So kind of a classic, Jordan-type, Kobe Bryant-type shot that you don't really expect from Giannis. So he wants that. He can do it. How consistent would he be in clutch time on those types of shots? I don't know. But at the same time, he doesn't always have to take that fadeaway shot, and I don't think he would. He can also... It's pretty tough to stop him from getting to the rim, and they're going to foul him, and he'll have to shoot free throws. But to your point, I mean, there's a lot. It's really difficult to stop him. So it seems like that's not a bad decision to go with Giannis at the end of the game. But yeah, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Obviously, the team, there's really no question now that the identity is Giannis. And I think with Damian Lillard, I think we all knew it was Giannis. I think they even maybe pretty much said he's the leader of this team, but you can't help but have that be questioned. And just, was Dame on board with that completely? Who was it at the end of the game? It was probably Dame, and for those 2 years. So you're right. And when you have another MVP candidate on your team, that's just a little bit different. So I think that is the clear difference here. We built a team around Giannis. There's no one even close to competing with whose team this is. But in terms of what's the identity of this team? How are we playing? The Bucks definitely did make a shift, and they've talked about making a shift. And I think we talked about it in the first podcast about playing faster, higher pace, wanting to get more threes up, more transition. And I think defense was somewhat of a focus, it seemed like. And I'm not sure they're fitting into that identity that was talked about completely. The increased, so in terms of possessions, they increased from 14th to 8th, but the pace changed from 14th to 16th. So actually lower in pace, even though they have more possessions. They've increased the transition frequency from 23rd to 9th. So that's good, but the scoring has only improved from 22nd to 17th. So at least that style of play has changed somewhat. They just haven't really been good at it to this point. And then 3-point attempts, they haven't really changed too much. They've just increased from 18th to 13th. And so there's little improvement here. There are things, but it's not a dramatic shift. And then the defense, I mean, we're ranked 20th or 21st right now, defensive rating. That's not good. That's worse than last year. And just watching them play in terms of with defense, I think you kind of also think like hustle plays. You think rebounding, they're the worst rebounding team in the league, or one of the worst. And I'm not seeing the hustle plays as much as I was hoping to. So I'm a little disappointed with kind of the identity that we expected, the identity that they talked about, from what we're actually seeing. We've seen pieces of it here and there, but it hasn't been consistent. And I feel like they're still a little bit lost. They're still a little bit trying to find out who they are as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it when the fact that there's pieces there. Look at the way that Kyle Kuzma has been playing. I mean, everybody has to be saying he's been playing so much better. He knows his role. He knows that, like, hey, I have to take better shots. He's still going to chuck a three every once in a while. That's just not, like, the ideal situation. But the game I was at with Charlotte, he had, like, 29, I think it was. So he has the ability to be a top scorer. Ryan Rollins at 32 tonight. I think the difference with this identity is, like, if Giannis isn't going to be the top scorer, you always assumed it was going to be Dame. And sometimes I feel like they kind of force that. Whereas now, anybody could be the guy that stands up. And I think the problems we have is you can give a little bit of leeway because it is early in the season. They're still trying to gel together. There are not that many new pieces, but, new pieces do affect the way that you play. The rebounding is still a joke. I mean, 21st should be like, I don't know, like that's almost generous. Like they just look terrible when they're trying to rebound.
The rebounding, horrible. I think they're last in the league. I believe 21st defensive rating.
Yeah, it's horrible. I don't know what they're doing. And I'll touch on this a little. I know we're going to probably get into a little bit, but it's early in the season, but I don't understand what Doc is doing at this point because, like, I would be totally fine if this is the way that we played. We lose some close games, things like this happen. But Doc is putting out, this is like his 15th lineup in 15 games. But no, he just digs his heels in, refuses to play certain players. It's like, I don't know what you're learning from these lineups because, like, this game tonight, the starters looked terrible together. Bobby Portis is a guy that I think a lot of fans love, but recently I found out that there's a lot of fans that hate him, which is kind of surprising to me. But the more I kind of have been reading the hate, I kind of understand a little bit. Like, he does shoot a little bit more than you want him to. His defense is not the strong suit. And tonight, Paul George, I think, had the first 11 or 13 points, and Bobby was the one that was on him. So it was very hard to look at that and be like, I'm sorry, but, that's Bobby's guy, and he's just having his way with him. So, I don't know. I guess the way I'm going to kind of pivot that is, like, I'd like to see Doc changing things up a lot more than he is. I don't understand why there's some people that he just refuses to play and other people that he's just tied to, like, I'm going to give him free range. But that's something I need to see changed if we're going to be evolving with this team.
Yeah. Well, let's run with that. We were going to get to it eventually anyways. In terms of Doc and kind of how he's handling the rotations and things like that. So you had mentioned the starters and the starting lineup and kind of digging his heels. And, like, we haven't seen lots of different lineups and whatnot. So the starting lineup that he has had to start the season, well, I guess it's changed since then, but the one with Gary Trent Jr. in there was played the second most possessions of any lineup. So the first most is Denver's starting lineup, which is outstanding. So you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. You have a really good starting lineup. Let's play it a lot. Doc has a starting lineup has a negative rating. It's not doing well, and he's playing it the second most out of all the teams in the league. There's like 30 teams So 28 others besides Milwaukee and Denver that all have starting lineups. I'm sure some of them are pretty good, but they're not playing them as much as Milwaukee was playing that lineup. And it's like, sure, it's a small sample size at some point, but that was after like 10 games. And it's just, you're totally right about Doc not adjusting quickly enough, even not adjusting, just from the beginning, like his initial plan a lot of times is really dumb. So in terms of the bench, which I know you wanted to get to, he starts the season playing like starters, then he'll take all the starters out, and then you have guys like 6 through 10 all playing together. Like, why would you think that's a good idea? Like, just at any time. I mean, maybe if you're Oklahoma City, you can get away with that. You literally have guys 6 through 10. Every starter is sitting. That's like a weird thing. I don't think most teams do that. In a typical rotation, I mean, maybe you're down 20, you're up 20. Obviously you get to things like that, but in a every single game, this is your plan. It was clearly Doc's plan. Here's my rotation plan. It just is like, I don't know what you're thinking. Everyone was immediately criticizing it. Like, this is really dumb, Doc. What are you doing? So he has changed. He has adjusted from that. But it's like, so he's slow to adjust, and his original plan sucks. And he's been here a couple of years. It's like, you kind of know half of this personnel pretty well at this point, you'd think. Again, I'm complaining about Doc Rivers on this podcast.
I think so. Here's the thing with maybe Doc. This might be what's going on. Is it the old school coach mentality of, if let's say if I want to try to defend Doc, okay, like instead of doing a sample size of one game and being like, well, that didn't work, like give me a couple games to see, did that really not work, or was that like just the game or something going on? Maybe that's what's going on. But I feel like, you watch an NFL game and they have these sheets with all their plays and they're covering their mouth and they're reading off the lines of like what they're doing. Well, when you listen to like the broadcast, they say like a coach comes out and they're like, there's 10 plays that I want to like go in order, and that's how I want to start the game. After that, those 10 plays, I have to start pivoting, and like that's when I really start to coach. I feel that's kind of like what we're seeing with Doc. He's got his lineup, and then he doesn't look at his sheet again. Like, this is the lineup. This is the game. Why would I change it? Because I read it through once, and this is what's going to happen. And it's like, all right, the game tonight, you had Andre Drummond, who's 8,000 years old, gets fouled out in overtime with 2.5 minutes left. He's their biggest guy because stupid Embiid doesn't play. I mean, I don't even know if he's on the team because whatever, but somehow he's still in the MVP conversation if you're a Phillies fan. Just remember that. So Drummond goes out, and he's the biggest guy. Why are you not putting in Sims and Turner and Kuzma in like a big lineup? Because they have nobody to defend with that. But no, we just stick with who we got. That's it. That's fine. And it goes to the rebounding as well. Like, I understand we're in a different NBA. I get it. But the fact that, like, you can watch games where you do have Sims, Turner, Kuzma, and Bobby all in the lineup. It doesn't happen too often, but you have those combination of guys in these lineups. Nobody is near the ball to get a rebound. The shot goes up by AJ Green. They're already down, ready to defend. Okay, great. If you had the best transition defense in the league, I'm fine with that. But your transition D sucks, and your rebounding sucks, and you're just going to keep doing the same thing? Like, what do you think's about to happen? I don't know what magic switch is going to happen that is going to change. And I think the last thing I'm going to say is if you go the Doc route of, like, maybe he just wants a bigger sample size, and you don't want to tinker with the lineup too much because maybe that's some of the things that Adrian Griffin type went through, like a first-time coach. Maybe you're making too many changes. You're trying to adjust things. It is a long season. There's a lot of things that are going to change. But I think these, what are we, 15 games in, something like that? I expect Doc to just be doing a little bit more. It just seems like he's just too stubborn.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there has to be something about Doc's plan, strategy, like, how they play. Like, he talks about how he wants them to play in the flow of their offense as opposed to running set plays. Or actually what he talked about was when Giannis is in there, that's how he wants them to do it. And then with Giannis out, he kind of falls to calling more plays. But the point being is he has an offensive strategy and like a way that he wants his team to play, that they obviously practice and talk about, and like, this is what we do, this is where you are on the court, kind of like back in the day Bud had like the dunker spot, and all the different spots, and you like put on tape on the court, this is where you are, so every coach has their, obviously, how they're going to run their offense. And so whatever Doc is doing for offense, and I think especially defense, it's not that good. Like, and we've seen a couple years of it now. Like, we've had a large enough sample size. It's for a while he had the excuse of he's new, he's got to get in here, he's got to get used to people. With Dame, it was like, Dame just sucks on defense. What are you going to do? And we finished 12th in defensive rating last year. So it's not like we were terrible, but kind of middle of the road. But that was with Damian Lillard. So you'd think this year it'd be better, if you had a good defensive strategy, and then you're replacing Lillard with essentially Ryan Rollins, who's a pretty good defender, definitely longer, bigger. And now you're 21st after 15 games or whatever it is. It's just more of the same, right? Since he took over, it hasn't felt right. Like, we haven't gotten there. We still aren't there. And it's just like, there's been a lot of time. You have the same core, Giannis being the main core. If anything, your defense should be better. I don't know why that would fall to 21st. So, the record hasn't been great. This year we're 500. When the first half season he took over, we were just under 500. So last year he was 48-34. All right, that's fine, but that was a 5th seed. Like, it should be better. And it's just, at some point, you're failing. We need a new coach. We wanted a new coach a while ago, but it's getting to that point. At some point this season, maybe they'll give him the whole season no matter what, but it's just like, it's not working. Either you're too, you don't want to pay more money as the owner, and you're just like, sorry, this is it. Or I don't know, but I feel like it becomes obvious at some point. So unless he kind of rights the ship here, and Giannis was playing up until now, and we have those bad numbers. We're 17th offense, 21st defense, 19th net with a negative 1.1. That's with Giannis. So that's not great. So definitely, and he should be feeling the pressure if he cares. So yeah, are we going to see some mix it up a little bit? Especially on deep. So today, today you had Maxey score 50, maybe more than 50.
54, I think.
Donovan Mitchell had a great game against us. Again, these guards, have really good games against us. And, how long is it till I say Ajax? Almost 28 minutes. It's just like, when is Ajax going to get in there? Now you have 3 guys injured who otherwise would play. So you have 3 less players who would be playing for sure. It's like, okay, put Ajax in there. I mean, maybe especially these games where these guards are going off. AJ Green's not a bad defender, but he's probably not the best guy to guard Ajax. Gary Trent Jr. is not very good. We don't have great options. It's really Ryan Rollins. That's it. So there are obvious things that you can do, that being one of them. And it's just like he went from coffee to Gary Harris. It's like, at least you did something there, but I don't know, not enough is happening.
No, I mean, you're right. There's not enough that's happening. Again, Doc is the type of coach, I think, that there's potential to maybe figure it out, as an old school coach, like, let me put together a big sample size. But at the same time, like, you kind of touched on it, like, this is year 3. I kind of would have expected us to kind of come out of the gates pretty strong. And it seems like just more of the same, kind of just limping out there. I don't know if Ajax slept with Doc's wife or his grandmother or his daughter, because something is going on there, because he hates him. And I'm going to tangent off this, because we could just talk about how terrible Doc is, but I'm going to talk about how terrible Doc's son is for a second. Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers plays for Lakers. Austin Rivers is one of the announcers on NBC's broadcast. Shout out to NBC, by the way. So far, they've had an awesome product. Been very excited with what they've been doing. But here we go on Tuesday night in the Cavs game. You got Austin Rivers. I'm going to keep saying that. Austin Rivers. Robbie Hummel who isn't bad, but it's like Rami Hummel. I think you like showed up to like the NBA to say hi and then you left. Like I don't think you nobody remembers you playing in the NBA if you did. So I don't really know what you're talking about. Um, but this whole time you have Austin Rivers kind of like he's doing an open mic, doing stand up, and like constantly reminding you that Doc Rivers is his dad. I got it. Like
Yeah.
I see it. Good job. If you really wanted to play that card, why don't you go and ask your dad, hey, what is the deal with you not playing Andre Jackson? Because you used to start him, you played him against OKC, and he shut down SGA, and then something happened, and you decided, I don't want to play this guy ever again. But the media says that he's your favorite, and there's not a single person in the world that believes it. It's like the alcoholic father who beats the wife and says, I do it because I love you. Like, it's kind of hard for people that are like the neighbors to see the same love that the wife is getting every time she's getting her ass kicked. Maybe that's what's going on with the Doc and Ajax situation.
That's a dark analogy.
That's a very weird analogy, but
on
I'm
point.
going with it. I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Austin Rivers has got to do better. Ask better questions. Doc needs to make some changes. I don't understand it. He likes old guys like Coffey and Harris and Prince and just these guys that are like, you know, you never really stood out anywhere else, but come to Milwaukee and I'll play you 30 minutes a game because I somehow owe it to you. I don't understand the game plan.
Yeah. 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 I never like the connection. Like he used to play for Doc. And so now, like, why does that mean so much? You know?
Yeah. Doc's been coaching for like 500 years. Like, who cares? Like, he's probably coached a lot of people.
Like, when was he the Clippers coach? You know, it was probably 5+ years ago. He coached Coffey. Great. Okay. Well, that was then. This is a completely different team. It's 5 years later, and Coffey has always been kind of a fringe guy who's like barely, you know, end of the bench, like middle of the bench kind of guy. Like, but, you know, there's a relationship there. And so now he is on the team and he got playing time for 10 games, you know, and he didn't do anything. So at least he's not playing him anymore. But he started with Coffey and Prince together, and it's just like they play the same position. They're both like backups for like why are you thinking they're going to be on the court at the same time? It's so that I could not get over that one. Okay, let's move on to Chris's mailbag.
Yeah.
Chris read, you know, the smart guy that he is, he's reading articles by The Athletic. And he pointed out two points made by whoever wrote that Athletic article. Point one was the Bucks need to rely on offense to win because they don't have a legit wing-sized defender. Well, so let's just take that first. So do you agree with that point that the Athletic was making, or disagree, or anything to expand on that?
Well, I don't like to agree with the Athletic ever. But, you know, kind of we touched on this already, like guards destroy us. So clearly we don't have a wing defender that can stop this. So, yeah, there is something to say about that. You know, the people that we bring in to play the guard position are scorers. That's what it is. You know, you're not bringing in a known, you know, defensive player of the year or even a candidate for defensive player of the year. You're sticking with guys that can score and are hopefully not a liability on defense. It seems like I'm going to draw a blank, but D'Antoni, I think it wasn't D'Antoni. His philosophy, I don't care about defense. We'll just be the ones that score the most points. So it doesn't matter if we let them score, but we're going to score more than them. It's almost like Doc has that same philosophy because, the offense has to carry us. It really does. We just don't have great defenders right now. I think it's kind of the way that this roster is constructed. Giannis isn't going to be a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. He's just required to do too much, and nobody else is stepping up to help him. So I do kind of agree that, you know, maybe that's the way it goes. I wish it wasn't the case. But based on what we're seeing, we're not rebounding. Our defense is not great. It's going to have to come through offense, and we're just going to have the guys that just don't miss wide open threes when they have the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the fact that we don't have a legit wing-sized defender is definitely true. because of that, do we have to rely on offense to win? I don't think so. I don't want to give up on defense because of that. You can scheme around it. You have guys who can be somewhat competent. You can, depending on the matchup, move guys around. Maybe Ryan Rollins kind of is not guarding the point guard. Maybe he's guarding a three, probably not Kevin Durant, but I don't know. You have guys like right now their starting lineup is, or to start the season, it was Green, Gary Trent Jr., and I guess KPJ, but we'll say Ryan Rollins. So you basically have three guards, right? And that's what they're basically pretty much playing all the time is three guards. And so that small forward is not a small forward. I'd like the only small forward on our team maybe is Taurean Prince and Amir Coffey, I guess. Right? I don't know if we have another small forward. And so you have like AJ Green out there who's sometimes just too small and not athletic enough to really keep up with some of the guys he's guarding. And it's a problem. And I don't think the Bucks are really legit contenders until we get somebody to fit that role. So in the meantime, do we have to rely on offense to win? I don't think I just don't like that. I don't want to say that. I think our defense can be better. Last year, who did we have last year? I mean, Middleton was, we didn't have anybody else last year, right? And we were a 12th defensive rating team, and Middleton, if anything, hurt us on defense before we traded him. So, I guess there's proof there to me that you can do it. You can be a top half of the league at least defense, a competent defense. So, yeah, I guess I don't totally agree with their point. There is something to it for sure, but I wouldn't just give up on defense and say you just got to outscore them and 140 to 135. I wouldn't be like counting on that.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they said rely on offense, that's wrong. I mean they make points, but we don't have to rely on offense. I think we just have to get better at defense. We have to get better at offense. We have to figure out the rebounding game at all. I mean, I think the frustrating thing is, again, this is a different kind of NBA than you grew up with in the 80s and 90s, but it's like when you have 7-footers in there that aren't grabbing these rebounds over guards, it's just very hard to understand why that's happening. So I think it's I'm going to disagree in the sense that the Athletic thinks that we have to rely on one thing over the other, but I will agree with the fact that, guards kill us. We don't have a legit wing defender, and that is a huge problem, and that's got to change. Maybe if you played your defensive best player of Andre Jackson, who has proof that he's actually been able to do it. I mean, I'm not saying we're not going to sit here and say Ajax is going to save this season, but it's you're having 5 guys out there. It's okay for one of them to not be the offensive guru or offensive piece that you need. The other 4 guys could be great offensive players. You just have one guy that's I'm just going to shut down the other guy. And we've talked about that before, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're losing a game in overtime where Maxey gets 50 points. If you figure that out a little bit, maybe you win the game in regulation, and so it's not like a guy's going to just take over and be the new Giannis, but little things throughout the game are going to add up and you're going to win more games. So they're close, they're not like a bad team. They're not terrible. It's just, if they had a better coach, they would be doing a lot more little things that I think would be getting them to be like a top 3 seed in the East kind of a situation.
Yeah. The East is open. We've talked about that before. We have an opportunity to do something.
Yeah. I mean, both times we played Cleveland, we could have won. I mean, we played them pretty well, but did not pull it off. Well, okay, back to Chris's mailbag. Point 2, we kind of talked about already. It was basically just saying the starting lineup was really bad. One comment I'll make about that, I don't think I referenced yet. Maybe a little tangent here, but interesting thing about that lineup is the top 4 plus-minus players for the Bucks so far this season are Giannis, AJ Green, Miles Turner, and Ryan Rollins, in that order. So those are 4 of the starters. The 5th starter was Gary Trent Jr., and that's what the Athletic article was talking about. At that point, he hadn't been changed out yet. So of the 5 players who had this negative rating as a starting lineup, 4 of them all have positive ratings and are the 4 best for the team. Gary Trent Jr. has a negative 30.4. Just an unbelievably bad net rating, which is kind of weird. I don't think he looks that bad, but something's going on with Gary Trent Jr. And so changing him out of the starting lineup was the right call. That was the right thing to do. And surprisingly, the Kyle Kuzma at the 3, which we all thought we learned, Kyle Kuzma at the 3 is a bad idea. Kyle Kuzma at the 3, this is a bonkers stat. The number 1 lineup in the NBA with at least 100 possessions is the Bucks' new starting lineup with Kuzma in instead of Gary Trent Jr. with a net rating of plus 48.2. So It's only been 108 possessions, but the best of any lineup in the whole NBA is that lineup. It's like some of these stats, probably because it's early in the season, are just like, how is that possible? So I don't know if that's going to continue because we talked about Kuzma's not a 3. He should play the 4. But so far, it's actually been working. I guess to Doc's credit, that has been working.
Well, I'm not going to give Doc credit for that. I'm just not going to do it. I talked about this before. I'm going to give credit to myself. Kyle Kuzma went to Washington and forgot how to play basketball.
Yeah.
And is finally relearning how to play basketball. Again, Kyle Kuzma is not going to be an MVP, but could he be an all-star? Yes, he's got the possibility of being an all-star. He's got to put together, a longer resume than we've had at a couple starts of the season, but he knows his role. He knows what he needs to do. It's the reason that he was able to be on a championship team and contribute to it. He could be a contributor to this team. Absolutely. Oh my God, I totally just blanked on what I was going to say, but I think the thing is, oh my God,
Kuzma's been good.
Kuzma has been good. He's known what to do. He's an okay defender. He's a big guy. He knows how to take some shots. The problem is he can't keep shooting those threes. That's the problem. Kuzma's not a three-point shooter. I understand that you need to have a three-point shooter from time to time, but that's kind of not the way it's going to be. It's unfortunate for Gary Trent because this was supposed to be the year that he proved that he was worth a larger contract.
Yeah.
He tried to get it last year, came to the Bucks to be like, all right, I'm just going to prove my worth. He got that kind of unofficial, under-the-table deal where it's like, come on, come back and step up and we'll reward you. But to start the season, it's not looking that great, which is kind of unfortunate for him. I think there's a lot of stuff that he could step up to do. But, like these net ratings, these are real stats that it doesn't seem like anybody in the coaching staff is ever looking at. Like literally anybody could pull this up and it's like, we talked about Doc is just getting stubborn and playing these same lineups all the time. But there's nobody on the team that's like, stop playing this lineup. It's horrible. It does not work. It's never worked. Change it up. But no, they just kind of let him keep doing what he does. I don't know. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Kuzma, he actually is taking one less 3 a game, essentially, compared to last year. So his attempts are down a little bit, which feels right to me because to me it feels like he is going to the rim more. Mm-hmm. And sometimes he's losing it, he's not finishing. But I'd say overall, I like it, and I like that style of play. I think he's made a point to be real aggressive and more playing at the rim, not playing at the perimeter, which he really should. He should not be like a perimeter guy, right? Yep. So yeah, I think he really took it to heart. Whoever he was talking to, whoever he was, training with, I think he really nailed it this offseason and came in with the right mindset and is really, helping himself because he was, no one liked him. It was pretty bad at the end of last year. He had a horrible playoffs. And so it was kind of looking like, oh, is this the end of my career? I wonder if he had kind of some of those thoughts, like I got to play better, So he is, and hopefully he can keep it up. He's not like the best player ever. He's not playing like, he's not going to get an all-star selection, but he is contributing to winning,
Yeah.
And I love him in the backup role. If everyone's healthy, I love Kuzma not starting. coming off the bench for Giannis because he does play kind of similar to Giannis. So it's really nice when he's replacing Giannis and they're not both out there at the same time. Especially because Kuzma sucks at threes, and so the spacing is worse for Giannis, and it's hard for Giannis to do what he does. And it's just like they don't, sometimes they have great moments together. I don't think they never should play together, but I think for the most part, which is what we've talked about for a long time, like staggering them makes sense. And that's how Doc started the season, and I really hope he gets back to that when everyone is healthy, because he's definitely kind of regressed, kind of forced his hand, but he's kind of regressed back to last year, and I'm just not sure how long that's going to hold up. Again, best lineup in the NBA, so maybe Doc's onto something. I'm just not so sure that's going to continue to be that effective if Kuzma's playing the 3 for 25, 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, I'm happy for Kuzma having this resurgence. But yeah, I mean, it's he doesn't fit in a starting lineup, even though that lineup seems to be working. But it's like he's an off the bench guy that seems to make a lot of sense. It's the same thing that like Bobby Portis went around the league as a starter, and it just never worked for him. Came to Milwaukee, he's a great 6-man. Sometimes you just have to kind of understand the role that makes sense for you, and I think that's the problem that we keep having with Doc is like, all right, you know that Kuzma and Bobby are better coming off the bench. Stop forcing them into the starting lineups unless you really have something figured out here. If you have somebody that's actually looking at the net rating and saying Kuzma should be starting in some situations, okay, well, let's maybe try that once in a while. But like, I don't know. I think sometimes you just kind of get to the point where you know your role and you got to play to it, and that's just the way you kind of attack the league.
Well, we've been talking about Kuzma a bit, so maybe besides Kuzma kind of stepping up and kind of filling that Giannis role as best he can, obviously not even close, but, kind of filling that, doing Giannis things. Aside from Kuzma kind of doing that and doing that well, what are, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things or players that need to step up in these next 2 weeks when Giannis is out with that groin strain? And we don't have Giannis and we don't have KPJ for probably the next six or 7 games. Who are you looking to step up?
Well, I mean, it's obvious to look at Rollins because he has stepped up. It's one of those things that you kind of look at the guy and be like, he was kind of a throw-in on a trade. He's been a two-way guy. He's never really been committed. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out and he's got 32 tonight. He's got, just monster games here and there. And it's like, what the hell happened to this guy that all of a sudden he's just like breaking out? But to kind of switch from that, the biggest person I'm looking at right now is AJ Green. He was somebody that we had very high hopes for. He has not seemed to find his shot. Something is off. I don't know what it is. But we got to figure that out.
Percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, but it's just like his entire game when you watch like from start to finish, there's like, he'll go through these streaks where it's like his shot looks god-awful for 4 straight shots, and then he kind of puts it together. And then in between that, he picks up 4 fouls. So it's like, all right,
the fouls.
By the time you finally got your shot down, you're already in foul trouble, and it's like, I don't know how much I can rely on you at this point. But I think, like, and this is going to kind of blend into something else. I'm really excited to see the way that Miles Turner kind of steps up with Giannis out. Because he's got the 3-point game. He's got the rim protector game. He has finally been able to close the chapter on the Pacers, who, holy cow, let's take a second to talk about how shitty of an organization and group of fans the Indiana Pacers are. Because the guy spends 10 years there. He gets booed on his first game back. And then as I showed today, they're like straight up trolling him at home. And it's like, oh my God, do you guys are you trying to be the villains of the league? Are you trying to be the biggest group of assholes that have ever existed? Because it's working. I mean, that must have been what you told Tyrese Halliburton, or else Halliburton told you, like, hey, the best thing that we should do is just be a bunch of fucking assholes all the time.
That's a Halliburton move.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And Miles, like, since he's gotten here, he's kind of like embraced the Wisconsin lifestyle. We talked about before, we always have like a center that's a nerd. He loves Legos. He's kind of like doing his thing. He's kind of like the guy that you're like, you see him at the school and someone's picking on him. You're like, that's the guy you're picking on. Like everybody likes him. Like what a weird person to pick on. Like I don't understand it. But I think it's actually going to be very helpful for him because he doesn't have to know. Look, I don't know how difficult it is going from 10 years in one team and then jumping to the biggest rival that's kind of developed from that. But it's got to be difficult for those first couple games. But I think pretty quickly he's kind of like, yeah, the Pacers suck and I hate them and I want to do better. And I think, that's going to light a little fire under him because, again, he is a role player, but he serves a very great role. Defensive guy. He can have some great shot selection. I'd love to see a little more aggression with the rebounds, but I think that's something we've talked about before. So I think that's going to be my pick. I think that's somebody that we potentially could see step up with Giannis out. And I think it's going to be something that's going to turn into a better overall team when Giannis returns because Miles needs to find his, I don't want to call it his strength because the guy's, he's already got that, but he's got to find like the passion for why he's on the Milwaukee Bucks. And I feel like it's building, but I could really see it taking over when he's kind of like the guy.
Yeah, I think with Miles, with Giannis out, you expect him to get back to his career numbers because he's kind of taking a couple less shots than he did than last season. The last 3 seasons, really, he's taken like 11 to 12 shots a game. And this season, it's been 9.5. And then tonight, he took 13 shots. I guess it was overtime, but still, he's kind of getting back on track without Giannis there. I mean, people, there's a lot of shots to be taken with that otherwise Giannis would have taken. So I think it'd be surprising if Miles does not get back to those kinds of numbers. And then, can he be efficient? Can he be effective doing that? He's not really known to be a scorer. Like not that he doesn't score at all, like Draymond Green, maybe you think of, he might get like 5 points. So, I mean, Turner, you expect to get double digits, but I don't ever expect Miles to have a 30-point game. Every once in a while, maybe he'll hit 7 or 8 threes and get to 30 points. That's kind of how he would do it. He's not like a post up over and over again or that kind of deal. But if he can do a little bit of that as a big guy, it was really nice to be able to kind of feed Brook sometimes, and he had those moves because that's all he did for 5 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden he became a 3-point guy. So it'd be nice to see Miles do some of that, especially with Giannis out. But yeah, AJ Green, I guess going back to that, I had him down as well, and I think it might be the fouls as part of the problem here, but he needs to get more shots. So I think part of the problem's the fouling and kind of forcing him to sit. And part of the problem is Doc Rivers not drawing up enough plays for him. Like treat him like JJ Redick. You're like, and you coached JJ Redick on the Clippers with your favorite team, the Clippers with coffee. You drew a ton of plays for JJ Redick. He was running around all the time. And it's like, I want to see some of that from AJ Green. He's that kind of a shooter, and he needs to be top 20 of 3-point attempts. Right now, he's 45th in 3-point attempts with 6.5 per game. He's shooting 47%. Awesome. I mean, that's probably, better than you'd expect, I would say. I mean, that's very good.
Yeah. It doesn't look like that usually when you watch the games, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's streaks that he goes through where it's like he can't buy a shot, but then you see that, you're almost at 50%. Like, okay. I guess.
Yeah, I have thought that a couple games where I felt like, oh, he didn't do that well. And I look at the stats and it was 50. Oh, he was 2 for 4 or he was 4 for 8. It's like, oh, okay. But like, I think a good example here is Sam Merrill, who used to be a Buck, playing for Cleveland, 25, 26 minutes a game. He's 14th with 8.3 attempts per game. They have Donovan Mitchell, kind of a ball hog, maybe not ball hog, but, ball dominant
ball
guy.
Hog, yeah.
So in terms, high usage, we'll say, right? Giannis, obviously very high usage, but, other people have to shoot. And so on Cleveland, other people, they also have Mobley. Like, they have some good players there, yet Merrill's getting 8.3 per game. And when we played Cleveland, they ran play after play for Merrill. Mm-hmm. They knew he is a key to our offense when he's out there. He's a big deal. Like, he's And if you have to follow him and pay attention to him, and then also that becomes a distraction, right? And then that now Donovan Mitchell can do more. So same thing here. We really have to utilize AJ Green and like make use of his skill as much as we can, and then that even makes it better for everybody else, especially Giannis. And I just don't think we're doing that quite enough. Again, part of it's Green's fault for having too many fouls. There's been at least a couple games where he's not gotten the minutes that he should have, and it's on him. But I also just think it's not enough plays run for him. And that might be Giannis's fault too. Again, last year I kind of said sometimes I felt like Giannis was at fault for the offense sometimes. I think maybe, because he's so high usage, so ball dominant because he's so good and he's unbelievably efficient. So it's hard to say don't do that. But you do want to be multifaceted. You can't just have Giannis and all they're doing is building the wall, and that's all they have to do. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. To end this tangent, completely switching points there, with Giannis and the wall and all that kind of stuff, I do want to see Giannis kick it out more. And that's another way we can get more 3-point attempts for Green, for Gary Trent Jr., whoever. Ryan Rollins, we have really good 3-point shooters. And sometimes Giannis is going into 4 guys. And it's like, there's got to be a guy open. You don't have to go through it. They're not calling a foul every time, as we've talked about. Occasionally you're turning it over. Most of the time it's working out. You're scoring or getting fouled. But I think there are more opportunities for Giannis he should be getting more assists. He should be getting 8, 9, 10 assists a game. I'd have to look. I think he's at 6 or 7 career, and this season I guess I don't know offhand. So totally off the point, because the point was who needs to step up with Giannis not playing.
No, but you nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, the game that I just saw, my first game of the year, Giannis had 18 assists. So I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
And kind of doing the throwback to when Kelly is like, "Well, are you sure you want to give it to Giannis?" Right now, the problem that we have is that everybody knows the only person we're looking for is Giannis. But like in the playoffs last year, there was that moment where they're like, okay, well, Gary Trent is on fire. They're going to try to get it to him. What we need to be in those situations where it's like, well, Green is on fire. Trent is on fire. Turner's, the same game I saw, he had 3 straight 3-pointers. You have to get to the point where it's like, well, shit, who are we going to guard? Because to your point, like you can go to Google right now and you can find countless images from this season alone where it's Giannis and 4 defenders and nobody else in the picture. So to your point, there is somebody open. There's somebody that's got to throw it out. And I think the problem that you can get from that eye test is that it almost looks like, and I know this isn't true, but it almost looks like you have everybody that practices together and then Giannis does his own thing. Like, it almost looks like Giannis and Thanasis are in the gym doing their own thing, they're practicing, and everybody else is practicing this team game. Because when Giannis isn't out there, they're distributing the ball in the 3-point, like they knew exactly how to set up the play for everybody. That should be going through Giannis, to your point. Like, you should be able to have him draw all those people in there, bounce it out to Turner in the corner, who flips it up to Green, who's wide open, and it's like, that's on you for not guarding Green out there. And if you are gonna block Green, well, guess what? Turner can still hit it. And then the moment all of a sudden we start saying we're not going to put 4 people on Giannis, then he takes over and destroys you.
Yep. Yeah, and that first game was against Washington. Is that right?
Yes.
I think it was Washington. And so it's like, was it that the Bucks were playing exactly how we wanted them to play? Because that game, they looked awesome, and the ball, there was so much movement. At 18 assists, I mean, it just looked like, wow, this Bucks team is going to be like good.
The 18 assists was against Charlotte just now in the NBA Cup. Yeah.
Okay. But that first game did look awesome, and we won.
Yes.
But it's like, was it that, or is Washington's just really bad? So like, how much is it? How much is it that? I don't know, but I remember out of the gate, and they were 4-1 to start the season, and so we were kind of pretty optimistic. We were talking about how they had that new identity, but it's kind of fallen off since then. Yeah, I think maybe the last thing we wanted to hit here was, why do you think it's been, I guess you did talk about Bobby a little bit, but any reason that it's a slower start? Is it, are we playing differently and he's not, doesn't know what to do out there? Or what's going on with Bobby?
I think Bobby is just his own thing, and I think that's going to be a difficult thing to kind of have on your team sometimes because Bobby likes to mouth off to people. He gets a lot of people nervous, especially my wife, who's always like, "Oh, okay, Bobby, don't get a technical foul, don't get thrown out of here." But every game, that's a very good possibility that Bobby might get thrown out of this game or get a technical.
Yeah, he was clapping in the ref's face, a woman's ref. Yeah,
that's right.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, clapping in her face. Come on, that's not right. I mean, Wes Matthews, who, quick tangent on there, had a great first game, and this game sucked. Was horrible. I mean, at one point, they're like, "Hey, what do you think of this blah, blah, blah?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's good for Philly, not the Bucks." 30 seconds of dead silence. And then Lisa's finally like, "Okay." Like, come on, Wes, that's fucking terrible. But Bobby, I don't know. I feel like last year he started out slow. And then the moment he started to get like a little hot, he got suspended for 25 games. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that maybe Bobby's got in his mind that, hey, I play a certain way. This is how I play. Deal with it. I could definitely see that being a thing. But other times you also see, when he took I don't want to say he took Kuzma under his wing, but when Kuzma joined the team, he's like, "Look, man, you don't have to do a fashion show coming in and out of these games. It's Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Everything's closed when the game's over. You go home, you sleep, and you come here to play basketball." So I don't know what Bobby I'm getting. But yeah, this slow start is a little surprising. You go from being a perennial six-man of the year, and he kind of looks like a trade candidate at this point. I hate to say it.
He seems less aggressive, less physical. He's known to be a good rebounder. I think of him as like one of the few good rebounders the Bucks have. I don't know. I guess I don't know what the numbers are, but he doesn't look like a good rebounder this season. And I've seen him get, pushed out of the way multiple times for rebounds. And that doesn't seem like a Bobby thing. Like he's the one kind of forcing his will. So I'm not sure, when I hear interviews, it seems like he's fine, seems like he's locked in. And, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's just kind of a slow start like last year. It kind of takes him a little bit to kind of get into the groove of things. He's actually shooting pretty well from three. It's not like he's just shooting terribly. His 2-point percentage is bad. It's never great, to be honest. So I don't know. I guess one thing I noticed was the assists. He has more turnovers. Actually, no. Here's what it is. I looked at the per 36 because he's playing like 5 minutes less this season than he did last season. So I looked at per 36. He's getting less rebounds, less steals, less blocks, less assists, less points, and more turnovers. So,
hey, all right.
So every stat line is worse, which is like, oh, okay, that's not great. So is it just a slow start? If we looked at his numbers after 10, 15 games last year, would it be the same? Would I be saying the same thing? Because we all were saying, wow, it's a bad start for Bobby. Hopefully that's the case because he ended up finishing pretty strong. We were all huge Bobby fans at the end of it. He played pretty well in the playoffs, and we were excited about him this year. But yeah, that's he's not doing. Every single stat line's not good.
It's unfortunate that we can't look up those stats from last year because that would have been good to look up, but we just can't. It's just impossible. So, the thing that jumped out as you were talking about this is I'm going to go back to the coaching, and I'm not going to call Doc out on this coaching, but like you kind of hit on some points. We have got some weird kind of hands this year. We are just like the turnovers that the Bucks have.
Oh yeah,
good defensive plays. It's sloppy play on the Bucks. I mean, it's happened to Bobby a lot. I'm not going to call him out as the only guy that's doing it, but like the number of times that they like have the ball in the post and it just slips out of their hand. It's like, what the hell are you doing? And I think the other thing is like with the rebounding, like you go back to like grade school basketball, the rebound is going to be the tallest kid that's out there, right? Well, that's not what's going to be in the NBA. They're all tall. I think they're in bad positions. It always seems like all of these guys, the ball is going over their head. And it's like, are you getting too close to the rim? Do you like expect something different to happen? Like, I feel like there's got to be some coaching adjustment there to be like, be in a better position to get these rebounds because, I mean, you have two or three guys that are all, 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", down by the rim, and it's going over their head and a guard is getting the rebound. Like, that should not happen at all. But it's like there's something to be said about the ball handling and the positions that you're being for rebounds. I don't know how you coach that, but I think there might be something there.
Maybe they're too set on getting into transition, which is something that I mentioned earlier with kind of one of the kind of new identity things was like, hey, let's get more in transition more. So maybe that's part of the problem.
We're number one in transition defense. Is that correct?
Probably. But in terms of getting into transition, now that means your guards or whoever is back there, we'll just say your guards are not rebounding, right? They're kind of running out as opposed to coming back to get the rebound. So maybe it's as simple as that. Like you're going to give up transition to get the rebounds. And so maybe we're just choosing more transition because I think we were top 10 transition, I believe. And so like, can you do both? I'm maybe not. I don't know if there is a team out there that does both well, I'm sure it's possible, but probably really difficult because you're going one direction or the other. You have a guy like Josh Hart on the Knicks who's going to come back and gets like 10 rebounds a game or something. That means he's not running down the court. So it's just like you kind of have to pick one or the other a little bit.
But like, why can't you coach to that? Like, we have guys that are not the best defenders. That like, why don't you just be like, all right, I want two or three guys to go back, and the other two, I want you to get the rebound every time. Like,
well, that's true. Like AJ Green, come get the rebound.
Yeah,
you're not going to run transition.
Right, you're not going to be the guy that we want back there. So just try to get the rebound at this point. And and if you don't get it, and the transition comes there, and the other guys can have some defense, like now you come trailing, or if you get a turnover, you're down there. Like, I think this is our candidacy for taking over for Doc. It's going to be the two of us working together because it's like it's so obvious how to fix this team, and Doc's just got his head up his ass apparently.
Well, let's end on that note in this little maybe question for you here. Ryan Rollins was not hurt. From what I recall, he was not hurt during the playoff series against the Pacers last year. Any idea? Like, what do you think? Like, how did he play all 5 games? How many minutes per game did he play? What do you think?
Well, my funny answer is going to be like Ryan Rollins played 13 minutes in all 5 games because I don't feel like I saw him out there at all. And which is kind of adds to the fact where it's like, where's this guy coming out getting 32 points a game in some of these cases where it's like you barely played. I didn't see you. And now all of a sudden you're like the greatest guy ever. And like everyone looks like an idiot for ever trading you. So, but I'm still going to say it's going to be very low. So I'm going to say he maybe averaged like 7 minutes a game at best.
Okay. Pretty close. Yeah. He had 10 minutes per game was the average. He started game 1 because Damian Lillard was hurt. And he started, and I don't have it in front of me. I think he played like 20 minutes maybe that game. We played them 5 games total. He didn't even play in 2 of the games. So he started in 1 game. Didn't play in 2 games, including the last game. And only averaged 10 minutes. So basically most of the minutes he had was the game he started. And then he had like a little bit, I think 1 game he had like 3 minutes, another game he had maybe 8 minutes or something. Barely played. Okay, now beginning of the season, he's getting the most minutes on the team and playing extremely well. He's the second leading scorer on the team. He looks pretty awesome. And it's like, did he really get that much better?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No. Doc
But
couldn't see that he was this talented. He was on the roster. He had played 15 minutes a game for the season. He won that roster spot. He was a two-way guy. We had to decide, do we want to sign him for the season? We did. He started in place of Damian Lillard in game 1. Like, what caused you to not even play him in game 5? Like, it's just like odd how it goes. It's such an extreme one to the other.
Well, it's the same thing that we're dealing with Ajax. Ajax started for a long time last year, and then all of a sudden it's like, I will never play him. Like, fuck you. It's never going to happen. But I think, touching on that playoff series, when you look back at it, it was kind of like the worst playoff series maybe of all time. I'm just going to throw it out there because we lost in 5 games. We lost the first game. Second game, we come out and play well, and we win it. And then we proceed to just be absolute garbage for the next 3 games. Like, I feel like...
Well, we were good the last game. We probably should have won game 5.
Yeah, but it was like game 4. I feel like we didn't even, try. Like, it just kind of felt like we had given up. And then, game 5 was like... Well, I think everybody assumes we're going to lose and this season's over. But this is going to be the game we're going to try a little harder. And
because Dame was hurt.
Yeah.
So, which is actually kind of funny. Rollins starts game 1, Dame's hurt. Game 5, Dame's hurt. Doesn't even get a second because KPJ started, and Doc played them the whole game. It was basically that starting lineup played 40 minutes. It's like, oh, you're right. Just the extremes of Doc. It's like, can you try to balance things out? Figure out this guy's good. He should play. It's just I don't know.
He's got a short leash. That's what Doc has for us, a short leash. Because if we don't make the playoffs, he's got to go. If we are a first-round exit, he has to go. Because otherwise you risk the potential of maybe Giannis actually might want to go this time.
You'd think so. I would think so, yeah. There's always talk Giannis likes him. Giannis doesn't like him. He wants this. He wants that. I'm not sure if there's really Giannis involvement in this stuff as much as people say.
No, there's not. Well, first of all, we've already talked about this before. Nobody knows shit about Giannis. He doesn't want to play in New York.
Shams has the inside scoop. He knows. He talks to him every
Shams
day.
a genius. The guy's, amazing. I think Giannis likes the fact that Doc maybe might be an equal in the sense that I think Adrian Griffin, I'm not going to throw Adrian Griffin under the bus, but I think Adrian Griffin might have been a little bit of a well, whatever you think, Giannis. What do you think, Giannis?
Yes.
Or what and it worked obviously for a while. We had a pretty good record, but then Doc's coming and being look, no, that's bullshit. We're going to do this or we're going to do that or something like that. And so I think Giannis has a little respect to be I want you to come in and realize that I'm a great player, but I don't have all the answers. But I think the problem is it's growing a little stale. Doc hasn't done shit. It doesn't seem to be getting necessarily better. Horst is pulling his hair out trying to put together a roster that makes sense. And then Doc just sits there and puts his thumb up his ass with guys that are the 9th guy on hey, I was the 9th guy in Orlando 10 years ago. Oh, yeah, I should play in the Bucks for 30 minutes. Or, I played on Brooklyn after, Kyrie and Durant left. And I got 6 minutes a game. Oh, well, let's come to Milwaukee. I'll give you 35 minutes a game. What the hell are you doing, man? There's a reason sometimes these guys got 6 minutes on these teams. You're not some genius that's going to give them 3 times the minutes and it's going to change something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, what are the odds that the guy who's stepping up and becoming this second leading scorer is a 24-year-old?
No.
It's not Amir Coffey. Right, okay.
Right, yeah.
It's the young guy. It's these young guys who need to prove themselves and have the energy and are more modern day NBA guys and all this stuff. So maybe if nothing's working, maybe play the young guys. I guess it's just worst case.
I'm just going to naturally assume that Amir Coffey and Gary Harris, they're 38 each. Because they look it. But it's one of those things
does look old.
You kind of nail it. It's oh, you know what? They never really made it in this league, but maybe this year. Like, come on, man. Like, you got a bunch of young guys. Give it a shot and see if they're going to work. Like, clearly, they're talented enough to be in the NBA, but not enough to get as many minutes as you have. Like, Torian Prince hasn't even sniffed an All-Star game. Like, he auditioned to be, like, in the skills challenge, and they said, no, thanks, we'll pass. And,
That's great. That's a fun fact.
yeah, that's a fun fact that I just made up. But then he's like, oh, well, come to Milwaukee because I'm going to tap into this, like, somehow every other NBA team in the entire league is an idiot. But Doc Rivers, who has only won one championship, hey, I'll give you credit for that. You won it. I'm not saying it's nothing. But you're not Phil Jackson that's got, like, a handful of rings on both sides that you can be like, give me a shot at, I think I know what I'm talking about. Like, you did it once. That's great. That's way better than a lot of people. That's not enough of a resume to be able to do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, Amir Coffey had his most points per game of his career last year, and the Clippers did not want him. Like, what you mean? Like, what does that say? He shot 41% from three, had the highest points of his career. He played 24 minutes a game, and they didn't want him back.
Yeah, and the Clippers.
Like, what does that say?
The Clippers can't even sell tickets. They're offering tickets for $4, and nobody is buying them. And they didn't want Amir Coffey to be there. What are you talking about? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That'll do it for this time. So we'll be back in a couple weeks, right? On schedule. In the meantime, subscribe and rate us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Email us at doubledribblebucks@gmail.com or text us if you have our phone number. Follow us on Twitter at PodDDB. Until next time, go Bucks.